What's up, everyone? Welcome to episode number 9 of the RUDIS Wrestling Podcast. Matt, what's going on down there in Ohio?
Oh, man, it's crazy. Obviously, in Ohio, the high school season actually started on Friday. I think it starts in Wisconsin today, right? But that being said, we've got a ton of team orders going in. We're cranking those out, trying to get everybody outfitted, ready to roll here by next month when they start competing. But we've been getting a lot of calls in late last week, early this week, and people are like, "Hey, is it too late? Can I get my team order in?" It's like, no, still got plenty of time.
Sure, and we don't mess with people though, Matt. We don't mess. Our academy, we do the gear order in September because we don't want to mess with those high school teams. I know how crazy it gets down there. So we actually got our stuff last week. We're pumped. It all looks really good. But yeah, man, I don't want to mess with that high school season. I know how crazy it gets down there in Ohio. So
yeah, but a lot of people think they're like, oh man, we're already into November. It's too late to order my team gear. We got plenty of time. We got plenty. We can generate art proofs, lock in your design, get it into production, and get it into your hands by the beginning of December. So you'll be ready to roll and looking good, looking sharp for the beginning of wrestling season. Also, obviously, next week with Thanksgiving and Black Friday, things are just absolutely.
Is RUDIS going to do a Black Friday sale? Because I might go nuts on that.
We are. So sales are coming. Cool things are coming.
Sweet.
Obviously, people are already. There's been a lot of talk about the wrestling shoe and what we're doing with that, but we're actually have started thoughts on 2.0, the new wrestling shoe for next year. So
Collegiate again, or you got a new one?
Well, we're doing the collegiate. We're doing. I don't want to give away everything we're doing, but obviously upgrading, making improvements, new colorways, different thoughts as far as that goes. So we've been meeting with our designers, talking about that.
Hey, Matt, did you guys make any extra pair of the World Championship Snyder shoes or no? Or was that like one pair or two pairs?
Well, that should be something that people should be tuning in for next week around Thanksgiving and Black Friday.
Well, if you got extras, if I don't get one of those and there's extras of those, I'm going to be pissed. So I'm going to have to come down. I'm going to hunt down Kyle myself. He's probably got all of them squirreled away in his room or something.
No, they will. And I don't. Oh man, I might get in trouble for this.
Okay, I'm not going to push you any further.
No, but people should be keeping a lookout next week. Okay. I think they're going to be really excited about.
You're breaking news. I didn't even know that, Matt. I thought I knew everything. I didn't even know that.
Yeah. So, I hope I didn't give it away. I don't think I did, but there might be some. There'll be some cool things around Black Friday that people are going to get really excited about. There's going to be some sales going on. So
awesome. Well, let's get into this recruiting talk. I'm pumped. You know what? So to give people a look behind the curtain, Matt, we actually had this recruiting episode. We were going to do it kind of as almost as episode number 1, way back a couple months ago. And then we actually, we were trying to get through our technical difficulties. We're, trying to do video on this podcast and a whole bunch of things. And it got to the point where we just had to run with the World Championships. And so you and I, we've had this we have a Google Doc file together. We've had this on our Google Doc for a while. And so now it's like, hey, this is NLI week. We have to do this show now. And one of the things that I know we're going to have to talk about, I'm almost not looking forward to talking about it because I think I've given my opinion ad nauseum on it, is the decommit process. And it comes back to us. I think it comes in 3 ways here. In the last week, we've had 2 huge decommits. We've had Devin Winston decommitted from North Carolina. He's number 1 ranked. We've had Adam Busiello decommitted and flipped all in one go from Penn State. And that was crazy because he'd been committed to Penn State for 2+ years. And then number 3, our number 1 overall recruit in this class didn't have 1 college, didn't have 2 colleges. He committed to 3 colleges before signing his NLI, and that's Daniel Kirklevitt. So I guess you and I have never had this discussion on early commit process. And I don't know if you want to complain about the NCAA rules or the kids, or I don't even know where you want to go with that, Matt. But let's have at this, because this is a discussion that gets everyone really, really fired up, really, really passionate. So let's go ahead and have at it.
Yeah, I think there's so many avenues that we can walk down, and so many different opportunities for discussion. So yeah, let's just jump into it and see where it takes us.
So what do you think?
Starting with,
I mean, because you were a college coach for a while, so I'm sure you had to deal with, at minimum, a few decommits, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think as the NCAA introduced new legislation over the course of the last couple of years, which allowed college coaches to start recruiting underclassmen, I think it started opening the door for kids to decommit, change their mind, open up their recruiting opportunities again, whatever you want to say. But I think it's just a logical progression. I think in previous years, before you were allowed to recruit underclassmen, I think there was some unwritten rules when it came to recruiting, like the unwritten rules in baseball. Like,
sure.
Hey, when a kid, I think in the past, when a
kid, I think it, but you know what, Matt? I think it was, I guess you could say unwritten rule, but for me, and I wasn't a college coach during this time period, so I don't know for sure. But I feel like it was almost the social media aspect of it, or the media aspect of it, that really pushed this genre forward. Because I mean, Matt, when I was in high school, I remember, and this is, I'm not that old, but 15 years ago, I remember on Intermat was really like the only website at that time that really covered too much wrestling. And I remember they would list the commitments as it happened, and like you might have one or two kids who committed as juniors, but it didn't really happen. I mean, it was like almost nobody. And then now it's like, I mean, if you look at, Matt, there's the NLI period is this week, and you look at the top 100 on Flow, there's like 4 people who aren't committed. 4. It's crazy. I mean, the difference is like so worlds apart. It's crazy.
Yeah, I'm waiting for the first 8th grader to make a commitment. That's going to be the next thing, right?
You got to imagine.
But yeah, I mean, back to what I was saying, like when you were being recruited and you gave your verbal commitment, that was in your senior year, right?
That was, I think I did it NLI week. I think I took all my visits in the fall of my senior year, and I want to say I called Coach Smith like, I think the signing is on a Wednesday. I think I called him on a Tuesday. I called all the other coaches and said I'm not coming, and then Wednesday I signed my thing. I mean, it wasn't like super early at all.
Yeah, but a lot of those guys that were in your class or even in previous years, when they made their decision during the fall of their senior years, a lot of times, the unwritten rule was, hey, say I was recruiting a kid and he decided to go to another institution, I would call the kid up. I would congratulate him. I was like, hey, best of luck. You made that commitment. I'm going to honor that commitment, and, good luck, in your next journey in wrestling. But as these kids are committing as freshmen, sophomores, juniors, I think it opens up the opportunity for coaches as a college coach, like, hey, what does this kid at 15 years old really know the decision that he's making right now? Like, he doesn't know what he's doing. So I'm going to keep recruiting the kid. And why shouldn't I? Because there's a lot of kids are changing their minds. So as much as a kid makes a verbal commitment to my institution or wherever I used to coach, I'm like, hey, there's no guarantee. I know the likelihood, if you're number 1 recruit, number 2 recruit, number 3 recruit, whoever, like, there's a good likelihood that a bunch of colleges are going to continue to try and introduce doubt in your mind, make you want to change your decision. So I better start recruiting these kids that have already committed.
Yeah.
I better continue to recruit them.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I think when you have that commitment, you have to continue to recruit the kid, because we see so many flips. And it could be a lot of reasons. It could be, hey, they recruited someone over you, and that ticks you off. It could be, the coach leaves, right? It could be, the team the other team that you like got a new coach or they're having more success. It could be 100 reasons. And so for me, and this is me as a spectator and, honestly, as an academy coach or someone who's advising young men to do this. Now, there's a lot of pressure being put on them because the tactic most of these college coaches are using right now. And the NCAA should be the one that somehow legislates on this. And I don't really like the NCAA, but they need to figure out how to legislate on this. Is that they'll say, the college coaches will say, hey, I love you. I want you to come to my college. I have money for you. I need to know by 2 months from now, right? So, something to that effect. If the coach is a real a-hole, then they'll say, I need to know next week, or I need to know by Wednesday, something like that. And so now these young people, these 15, 16, 17-year-olds who've never been in a serious negotiation in their life, who are making probably what's going to be the biggest decision of their life, if not very, very close to it, have all this pressure that they don't know how to deal with. And
right.
a lot of them say yes because they don't know what else to do. They feel pressure and they don't know. So they're making a commitment that they didn't necessarily want to make.
Right.
I mean, that's how I see it.
Or it does happen the other way, that a kid is like, hey, I want to go to Penn State. And so they call up Penn State. It's like, I want to verbally commit to you. And I'm just using them as an example. Like,
sure. Well, hey, they're the news, right? Busiello committed as, if it wasn't a sophomore, it might have been a freshman, but he committed a long, long time ago.
He committed right after his freshman year. And I know that he was on everybody's radar. He was on Penn State's radar. I mean, you didn't have to dig very deep to know that he had an affinity at a very young age for Penn State. Yep. But as a freshman, when he went to Penn State, he called them up and said, I want to verbally commit to Penn State. And I'm sure.
Yeah, did he really? I mean, they didn't show any interest in him or what?
No, he was on their radar. He was a freshman, though.
I mean, he was good. He won Super 32 as a freshman, so he should be on everybody's radar, probably.
Yeah, he won Super 32. He won. He actually won the New York State tournament as an 8th grader. Won it as a freshman, so he was a 2-time state champ. So there was some data on him and some evaluations going on him. But really, as a freshman, like, what did Penn State really know about Busiello when at the time he made his commitment? So there are some certain cases on that side. The other. Let's talk the financial component too, just to educate our listeners about how the process actually goes.
Well, you and I are going to disagree on this because.
Right. Okay. Let me finish my point real quick. We're good. So a college coach cannot actually make a financial offer, an actual offer, until the summer before their senior year.
But does that mean they're not doing it?
Of course they're doing it.
Of course they're doing it. Of course.
Yeah, they may say, hey, I can't tell you exactly what we have. I can tell you there will be a scholarship. I can't. Yeah. Most kids, but what most kids assume, right? If you're a top kid in college or high school, you're like, that means I'm going to get a full ride, and that's rarely the case with big time programs anymore. Because there's a limitation of 9.9 total scholarships. I think a lot of people think that programs have 9.9 scholarships to work with every single year. No, that's broken up over 4 or 5 years. And so a lot of times, like, you try and project 4 years out,
it's impossible.
What your anticipated needs are going to be. You try and do it. You're like, okay, in 4 years, I've got these 4 guys that are going to be graduating. This guy's on 25%. This guy's on 50%. This guy's on 75%. This guy's on 25%. So I have, a couple scholarships to work with. And so you're working with that number, but that number changes. Guys could quit. Guys could transfer.
Guys get hurt.
Guys get hurt. Guys could graduate early. There's a variety of things that could impact what you think you're going to have available for you.
Yeah. And so just to go back there a second. Yeah. I mean, you can't project out that far. It's almost impossible. And we know, as you and I know, who've been around this game for a while, college wrestling is one of the toughest places to stick around. I would venture to guess the retention rate is really low. And, usually I get pissed about the retention rate, especially when it pertains to youth and high school wrestling. But in college wrestling, I get it 100%. And here's the lowdown of it is if you're in college football or you're in college basketball and you're not starting, hey, you get to go sit on the bench at practice, sit on the bench, and right, you still get your scholarship and you're on a full ride because that's what they give in those sports. If you're in wrestling and you're not the guy, if you're the second string, third, you're getting your butt kicked every day. You're the practice dummy, and you're probably on 20%. And that 20% just isn't enough to motivate you when you know, hey, I'm a junior. I have a freshman that's better than me. There's a redshirt that's better than me. I'm never going to see the light of day. That 20% is just not enough to motivate you. So you're going to likely quit the team and go focus on whatever the hell you're going to do the rest of your life. I mean, there's not a lot of guys who stick around and don't start their whole careers. So to your point,
number
impossible.
One, yeah. Anybody that makes it through 5 years in a college program has my respect forever because it's one of the most difficult things to do. There's not a lot of rewards, out there for a backup wrestler or even a lot of starters out there that have 500 records. So and in the case of, okay, you're on 20% in state at like Ohio State, you're talking, I think tuition and cost of attendance is under $30,000. So you're talking
that's in state, not out of state too.
That's in state. So you're talking like, oh, I'm doing this for $5,000 a year.
That's like $3 an hour, $2 an hour.
Right. This is like they should be looking into some child labor laws there or something like that. But yeah, I mean, to your point, like a lot of these people after a couple of years, like, this isn't worth it. Like, what the heck am I doing this for? So they decide to make changes. They leave and money comes in and out. And so, yeah, I mean, and then I know we talked about this several episodes ago. Now that you can make yourself available for transfer, at least to have discussions to transfer a lot more easily. Now that number that you have to work with is even more variable.
Yes.
So, but let's get back to our point. Let's get back on topic and actually talk about.
It was kind of off topic, but also kind of on topic because, essentially, and this is where I get so frustrated. And we can get back onto the specific recruits, and who knows, this podcast might go into another episode. It doesn't matter. We're just going to talk. Is that fans on Twitter, like, people on Twitter that they want to say, oh, these kids, I can't believe they decommitted. There's no commitment these days, blah, 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 right? But they don't understand the mechanics of everything. They don't understand how college wrestling programs work, how college coaching works, how scholarships work. They don't understand all of this. And so they're essentially making these comments from an uneducated perspective. And that frustrates me because I'm on the side of the athlete here. I think these athletes have a very challenging time. I think they're young kids, 15, 16, 17, when they're making these commitments. And so being criticized, being looked down upon, I have learned to brush my Twitter off. I'm an adult. But for these kids, man, that hurts them when people are on their Instagram and their Twitter and their Facebook saying, oh, I can't believe you just did that. You have no commitment, blah, 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 blah. That's rough for those kids. And frankly, that's a lot of uneducated people who don't understand the process that are saying those type of things to those kids.
And obviously, I'm going to advocate on the other side of things, being that's where, I've been for the last 20 years, is like, you think it's a difficult decision about how much money you're going to actually commit to a kid because you have to get a return of investment, right?
Yeah.
Any dollar that you give a kid takes away from your 9.9. And that's not a lot of money to work with. You're talking about 9.9 scholarships spread out over a typical roster is in between probably 30 and 40 wrestlers.
Yep.
So that's not a lot of money to go around. So any money you do actually spend, you better get a return of investment. And so the amount of thought, the amount of detail, the research, evaluation, investigating these kids and trying to gain an understanding of what their top end's going to be once they get to the college level, it's very, very difficult. And
and
so a lot of times these kids think, oh, I'm a 4-time state champ, I'm going to get a full ride. And a college coach is like, I think he's going to be very good. But number one, I only have 25% to work with. So this kid may be thinking, I love Ohio State, I want to go to Ohio State. And Ohio State is actually thinking the same thing. I love this kid, I believe this kid's going to be a national champ. But then I have to pick up the phone and say, hey, Ben, I love you. I think you're going to be the best. I think you're going to be a national champ. But the reality is I only have 25% scholarship to give to you. And this kid is like, well, I know I committed to you a year or two ago, but you're giving me 25%. I've got 3 other programs that are giving me a half ride or three quarters or a full scholarship. So I'm gonna go over there, because in most situations, the recruiting base for wrestling is blue collar, hardworking families that don't have a lot of disposable income. So
so Matt, let me cut you off there real quick. And so really, I guess I'll say, and I said it's not the kid's fault. I'm going to say it's not really anybody's fault, right? Or if we want to blame somebody, it would be the NCAA, because obviously as a college coach, I understand their dilemmas. They have to go recruit. And listen, I've talked to a lot of them. They don't want to. They think, this is freaking stupid. I got to go recruit these freshmen and sophomores. I don't know what they're going to be when they're juniors and seniors. I'm not sure. There's a lot of things that happen between someone's freshman year and someone's senior year, but they have to, because everybody else is. And if they don't do it, they're going to be the odd person out. And so they feel almost forced to go recruit these freshmen and sophomores, and they don't want to do it. And then the freshmen and sophomores, they don't want to make these decisions as freshmen and sophomores or even as juniors. They want to wait till their senior year and make these decisions. But because both parties don't have enough power, right? There's like a handful of kids that have enough power to say, wait, I want to make my decision later, right? You're top 10 nationally or whatever it is.
And on the flip side of that, there's only a handful of college programs that have that power that said, hey, Ben, I need you to make
honestly, I would almost say 0 for the college programs, because it's like, hey, if a kid's between Iowa, Penn State, and Ohio State, those are all, I don't want to say they're equal, but they're pretty darn close, right? And so where it's like, a few of the best recruits have a little more power. There's only one Greg Kirklevitt, right? There's only 1 or 2 Spencer Lees, and you don't know for sure, but you have a pretty good idea that they're going to be darn good. And so I want to say this is nobody's fault except the rules, which then goes back to the NCAA doing a better job, making better rules, keeping the recruiting for later on in people's careers when, and Matt, you're talking about the scholarship money 3 and 4 years out. But, when they're freshmen, right, if you're saying, I'm going to give you this scholarship when you're a junior in college, that's like 6 or 7 years. So that's even farther out than we were discussing earlier. So, it's in my opinion, it's almost nobody's fault. It's the system's fault, because the system forces it to happen this way. And I wish it would change.
Yeah, obviously, we'll at some point get into a discussion about the NCAA and student athlete welfare and the hypocrisy of what they promote, but actually what they deliver on is two different things. But yeah, it's a vicious cycle. You can't. Neither party fully wins or probably feels fully good about how their recruiting process plays out from the athlete side or from the institutional side. It's not healthy. It's not good. And but it is what it is. And so you have to live in the here and now. This is what it is. So you can't just say, well, I'm going to stand on my ethical soapbox here and say, I'm not going to do this on principle because this isn't good for the athlete.
Because you won't have a job because you're getting fired.
Yeah. And so we'll see at Walmart in groceries,
Walmart.
Right?
I feel like actually most college coaches for whatever reason go into medical sales, and I hear that's really well paying. So who knows? Maybe they won't mind their new profession.
Yeah,
you never know. So let's go into who your favorite class is, and you and I have been building this Google Doc. There's a handful of good ones. I mean, for me, there's 3 that really stand out as number 1, 2, and 3. And then behind that, there's a handful I like. So I'll just tell you what my top 3 are, and in no particular order. And I will tell you one more thing about me. I like some depth, right? Because I obviously understand that not every great high school kid is going to be a great college wrestler. You're going to have some fall off. So if you're one of those classes that has like 2 guys that are really good, that's tough for me because you need a little more depth in that. So here's who I got as the top 2. I got Arizona State. You have Colton Schultz, I believe number 1 or 2 is weight class. Julian Klebo, number 10 overall. You got Nick Ramo, very high ranked. Trey Munoz, who is the son of former NCAA champion Mark Munoz. You have Adam Busiello, who I think is number 3 as weight class. And you have Cleveland Belton, who is number 10-ish, somewhere in there. I also like Cornell, and Cornell is especially impressive considering they did this with no scholarship money, right? There's no scholarship money in the Ivy Leagues. So you have
wait a second. Wait. That's a whole different discussion.
Okay. Well, I shouldn't have brought that up. Let's just talk about these classes.
Let's talk about the classes. Yeah.
Okay. You got Phil Mooney out of Nebraska. Very tough. I always screw this guy's name up. Colton Yapujian, I believe is his name, from Colorado. Really tough. Mason, another tough name. Mason Reinichi out of, I think he's at Baylor School in Tennessee. Julian Ramirez, who's a number 1. You got Chris Foca, who's very highly ranked. Jacob Cardenas, he might be a number 1 right now, and Luis Fernandez. So a lot of big boys in this class, and that's something Cornell needs. And then obviously Ohio State, you have Decatur times 2, Jacob and Jordan. You have Greg Kirklevitt, number 1 recruit overall. Dylan D'Amelio, who his stock just went way up, winning the Super 32 and being dominant over Bo Bartlett. So I want to say he's a very highly ranked kid now. And then Carson Karchla. So, okay, Matt, which class out of those 3 classes, I think those are the 3 best. Which one do you like most?
Well, I think you present a very strong argument. It's really hard to go all in and say you have the best class just because you have the number 1 and number 2 overall recruit in the country. But the numbers aren't as big as Cornell and Arizona State, but I would think right now Ohio State not only has some depth, they have some depth as far as the number of guys in their class, but the overall guys, they have Kirk Leavette's number 1 overall recruit in the country, and what Carson Karchla is he 2 or 3?
He's they have 3 of the top 5. I'm not recalling the exact numbers right now, but but to your point, Decatur, Karchla, Kirk Leavitte, all top 5 recruits, not in their weight class, people, not overall. Their weight class overall. Which I remember Penn State's recruiting class last year was ridiculous, but I don't think they even did that. I mean that is like insanity.
Yeah, so you got. I mean, you were to your point before about the variables that go into success at the college level. It's very hard to target these guys and say, okay, yeah, this guy's a top 100 overall, or he's a number 1 at his weight class. But typically the recruiting rankings, when they do the overall top 5, typically those guys perform at a very high level. I know there's been there's
definitely been some drop-offs,
but typily if you're,
I mean, here's the thing. I guess here's the thing you're thinking here, Matt, is like, and so I'm tell me if I'm putting words in your mouth. You can tell me I'm wrong. Out of the top 5, so let's just say out of the top 10, that's a really good group, right? Out of the top 10, there are going to be some of those guys who don't succeed, who don't make it at the next level. Possibly,
yeah. Typically it's anywhere from 3 to 5 of those guys don't have high level success, and there's only maybe 1 to 3 that have high level success. Well, by that I mean 2 or 3 time national champs.
Well, so what I was going to say is that I would say The percentage of the kids who don't make it in the top 10 might actually be the same as the top 100. But those who do make it in the top 10 generally have that high level success. It's a Spencer Lee type kid. It's a Jason Nolf. It's a Zane Rutherford. It's those type of kids. They're winning multiple national titles. So your success rate, the amount of kids on that top 10 who are successful, might be similar to your top 100. I don't have exact stats on that. This is just my feelings, right? But when those kids do have success, they're really, really good. Your Kyle Snyder, Jaden Cox, Kyle Dake, David Taylor, those type of kids.
Right. So looking at that and looking at the list you've compiled, the guys that I think that are going to have immediate high-level success, I feel very strongly about Kirk Leavitt and Carson Karchla.
Well, but Karchla, but let me pump the brakes on Karchla a little bit. I didn't like the fact we talked about this on our last episode. Folk style to freestyle is different. I didn't like that this guy Carson Karchla didn't wrestle folk style at who's number one. And so I'm not in Ohio, so I didn't see him wrestle folk style last season. I know he's got a really good coach. I know he's got a really good training partner, Connor Brady. But I want to see this guy wrestle some high-level folk style matches before I say he's the next coming.
Sure.
Because I think that's fair. Is he a great man? I mean, listen, at Fargo, he freaking gut-wrenched everybody. So it wasn't like he scored 100% of the points on the feet. He scored a lot of them on top. And that weight class right now, from a high school perspective, is very deep. There's a lot of really good kids there. And so if he's not a great mat wrestler, if that's a weakness of his, which it might not be. I don't know right now. We just talked about Roman Bravo Young, another guy who I hadn't seen wrestle a lot of high-level folk style matches as high school kid, and he's a beast on top. I mean, he went beast mode last weekend. And so Karchla might be, I want to pump the brakes. I want to say, hold on a minute. Let's see this. And Matt, you're from Ohio. Maybe you know more than I know. I could be totally wrong, but I'd like to see him wrestle some folk style matches for sure.
No, I think that's a very fair assessment. But you were asking for my gut. Who would I put up there? I think Ohio State, the guys
so
very strong.
Let me ask you this. Would you go Karchla or would you go Jordan Decatur, more likely to have college success? Gun to your head. No, I want to make this harder. Or Dylan D'Amelio. Give me a 1, 2, and 3 on that. Because I think we're saying Kirk Leavitt's number one.
Yeah, I think Kirk Leavitt, clear number one overall in the country, I think. I would say you swayed me with your argument. I would say it's a toss-up. I would go 2A and 2B with Karchla and Decatur, and then D'Amelio. He jumped though. He's a guy
he
wow.
Jumped. He just got a lot better.
Yeah, he had a coming out party at Super 32, so he's a guy. I'm sounding like a politician here.
So D'Amelio. So I'm on the top 100, man. Now D'Amelio's up to number 23 overall in this senior class. So obviously he's really tough. Okay, so
I'd put him number 4, but then I would probably just number 1. I'm always impressed with Cornell. I mean, these guys are recruiting machines.
But this class is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I believe 7 all top 100 guys.
And the thing that Rob Cole and his staff has consistently proven, they produce guys year in and year out that aren't necessarily the number 1 overalls. And all these guys are very, very good. And I think they all have high-end potential. But that's the thing that Rob Cole has proven to be able to do is develop guys. And you're always, every year, you're like, where the heck did that guy come from?
Why do you think Cornell has never had a good heavyweight, though?
That's an interesting question.
That's a tough question. I'm curious. I don't know why they haven't. Because they've had about someone good at it. They've had a lot of really good 84s and 97s, but they have not had a good heavyweight in forever. It's crazy.
That's a good question. And they've had a great upperweight coach. Damian Hahn's a great coach.
Yeah, and the 97s, they've been I believe multiple national champions at 97 and 84.
Yeah, isn't it funny though that with a lot of programs they're traditionally strong at certain weight classes, but you're like, wait,
funny.
They've never really produced a lightweight. Or in Cornell's case, like
Penn State, besides Mega Ludus, 25 and 33 have not been that great.
And they have great, I mean, that's the thing about Penn State. And I think that's the same with a lot of coaching staffs. They think just because you're a little guy, you're the lightweight coach, where a lot of smaller guys actually coach whatever the skill set, depending on what weight class you are. Like Cody Sanderson, in my mind, is one of the best. I'm not talking about assistant coaches. I'm talking about overall the best coaches in the entire country, hands down, without a doubt. And for them to say, well, they're not producing lightweights, that's garbage. I mean, but it is funny. They just, for whatever reason, outside of Mega Ludus and a couple other guys, you can't say, hey, they really haven't produced high-end guys.
I mean, we'll compare to the rest of the lineup.
Same thing with Cornell. Look at who Cornell has had in the upper weights. You've had Gabe Dean.
No heavyweights.
You've
Bozak.
You've got Darmstadt, who's going to be a beast.
Bozak was a national champ.
Bozak's a national champ, all at the upper weights, but they haven't produced a heavyweight. It just sometimes it just happens. But obviously, back to what we were discussing, Cornell, another killer class. They've got a young group of talent right now that's really, really strong. And you add these 7 guys into the list, and Rob Cole's in good shape for another 5 years.
The only one thing I would say with this class, when I look at it, Matt, is that you go Ryanicki, Ramirez, Foca, Cardenas, Fernandez. Now, I don't think one of those guys is going to be below 74. I mean, Ryanicki would be the one that's kind of maybe, but he's pretty damn big. And so when you're looking at that, if those guys are as big as I think they are, someone's the odd man out. So you almost have to do a -1 because someone's not finding the lineup in that group.
Now, I totally agree with you. And another component to this discussion that I would talk about when I put Ohio State and Cornell above Arizona State's class, I would do this because.
So you are putting them above. I didn't know you were ranking them. Okay.
And this is why. Because I believe at Cornell and Ohio State, you have established and proven culture within your program.
Sure.
Right? Year in, year out, they're producing multiple national champs, multiple All-Americans. And so culturally, the expectation is if I get in the lineup, I'm winning.
Well,
and
so
I'm winning at a
very
high level. And I don't think.
Do you think that's coming with Arizona State? What's Zeke? Zeke's been there 4 years, 5 years now?
4 years.
And
I think it's I think it's coming, but is it culturally established?
No,
right?
I would say no.
I would argue, case in point, like your career, you had a more difficult time achieving success at Missouri because you were one of the forerunners. You were actually trying to establish the culture at Missouri. Now that journey is now an expectation. You were the guy you were one of the first guys trying to kick the door down. Now, 10 years later, these guys, I go to Missouri, I get in their lineup. It's not going to be a matter if I'm going to nationals, if I'm going to be on the podium. I'm going to be measured on if I actually win a national title. And that's what Cornell and Ohio State have done. If you're wearing the scarlet and gray, the expectation is you're going to win and you're going to win a national title. If you're slapping that C on your chest, you're going to win and you're going to win at a high level. I don't think that's been established at Arizona State.
That's fair. And so the Arizona State class, it's deep though, but when you talk about the weight classes, you might run into the same issue because a lot of these guys I don't know what weight they're going to end up at, but who knows? Maybe they grow. But you got
the best guys. Yeah. The best guys find their way in the lineup.
Schultz, who's the heavyweight. You got Klebo, Ramo, both small. Munoz, he's getting bigger. And then you got Busiello and Belton, who are both, smaller guys. I mean, the thing with this class that I think is, I don't know if I want to say unsettling. Ramo has had some serious injuries and not really made a lot of progress since his freshman year. He came out like fire. He won I believe the 4 Fargo titles right in a row in the cadets. Klebov obviously he's had some issues. He didn't wrestle for the last year and whatever. Busiello, you know, and I know we talked about him at length on the Super 32 episode, but you know, goes from a guy who won 3 state Super 32s to not placing. You know,
and could it be? And let's introduce this because that's what everybody's talking about. Everybody's talking about, oh, he decommitted.
Yeah.
Did he decommit? Did he decommit, or did Penn State maybe not feel as strongly?
Yeah, I mean that's
as people thought they did, or was it?
You know, the other thing we talk about, and you talked about this earlier, Matt. Penn State now they got Teskey in the room, they got Bravo Young in the room, they got Teasdale in the room. They've already seen what these guys are made of now. So maybe they got these guys in the room that said, "Damn, these guys are better than we thought they were. They're freaking great kids." But you know, go down the line. Maybe that's what happened.
And maybe Busiello saw the same thing. He's like, "Oh crap!"
Yep.
Because when he made his commitment, he made it after his freshman year.
He was committed.
At the time,
yes.
At the time, they didn't have these guys. And
none of those guys. He was the first one of those guys to commit.
Now he's seeing, holy crap, the cupboard's full. And it's not just full, it's full of high-end talent. So he's like, maybe I want to go somewhere else. So who knows?
That's possible. I mean, that's definitely possible. So, Matt, it sounds like you went Ohio State 1, Cornell 2, Arizona State 3. I think I agree with you 100%. I think that's the way I would put them. I think my reasoning is the same. Any other classes? You know, we wrote a few down. One other class that I like, but I don't like. I like because it's got 2 guys who I really like, but I don't like it because it's not nearly as deep as the Virginia Tech class. They got Bryce Andonian and Connor Brady. I've been very impressed by both of these guys. Connor Brady's a beast. Andonian, I love this guy. He whooped one of my guys at UW Cats. I kind of gave him some crap for it after the match, like, don't ever try doing that to one of my guys again. And then he gave me crap back the whole Fargo. And then I remember I was watching one of his matches. He got down 9-0, Matt, at Fargo. And I just loved the way he stayed composed. And he was just like, there was really no, like, most times when guys get down 9-0, there's a lot of worry in them. And he was like, there was no doubt he was going to go get this dude. It was, you know, that's just all there was to it. And he came back, he teched him 19-9. It was freaking awesome. So, big fan of him. I think that's a really class. Any other ones that you see that you kind of liked or maybe that aren't top 3?
Yeah. So of the list that we put together, it's like the usual suspects, right? You have Ohio State, Cornell, Arizona State, Okie State.
Well, Penn State's not on this list. Penn State only has one guy in the top 100.
Yeah, but I would like to point out one team of note that you've listed, and that's Northern Colorado.
Yep.
So it's one of the cases, like, one of these things is not like the other, right?
Yeah, sure.
You've got all these traditional powers, and then you've got Northern Colorado, and they've got 3 guys that I think are going to have a very good future in Alirez, Robeson, and Schwartz. 2 of those guys being in-state guys, I believe.
Schwartz has been back and forth. So Alirez essentially is in the backyard of Greeley. I mean, he's right there.
Right.
But Schwartz grew up in Colorado, but then I believe went to Wyoming Sem, and now I think he's back in Colorado. Don't quote me on that one. I could be wrong, but I think he is.
Gotcha. But you know,
sure.
To my point, for Troy Nickerson, that's a huge pickup. Three really good, high level quality. These potentially for Troy at Northern Colorado, these are program changers, right?
Yeah,
where we're talking about at Cornell and Ohio State, you're culturally established. With Northern Colorado, this is like, these are three guys that potentially could change the course of your program.
Yeah,
right.
No doubt about that at all.
Really excited for Troy Nickerson. Great job by him. And it'll be interesting to revisit these guys.
Nice. Yeah,
and I know every college
one more, Matt. One more. I gotta give one more shout out because I am biased and I am a homer, and that's fine. I thought Wisconsin has a really good class, and so they have Barnett, who's the number 1 ranked right now, Kyle Berwick, who's very highly ranked out of North Dakota, Josh Otto, who is a top 100 type kid, UWW finalist, and Pete Christensen, who's I think he was a Fargo champion. And then they've also gotten a few transfers, I believe, that were announced. So Bono, this is kind of Bono's first run at it since he got the job in April, and pretty solid. I don't think he can compete with those top 3 guys, but pretty solid class for his first go.
No, I think that's great. I know there's always that pressure when you take over the reins of the program. You got to deliver right away. It's not like the fans of Wisconsin or around the country are going to give Bono a free pass. Like, oh, he needs to feel himself out. He needs to find his way. Or they're like, no, we brought you in to make an impact immediately. And that impact is most immediately felt by the recruits you get. And for him to come in in the first 5 months on the job, 6 months on the job, just a outstanding first class. But the job's not done. I know how all these college coaches are. Things like, it ain't done until Wednesday gets here, until they sign on the line on Wednesday and actually receive that.
Yep, they have a
NLI in the mail. You got to keep going.
Yeah, absolutely. So, all right, Matt. I think we nailed it. We had a fun week talking about all the stuff that happened, talking about the recruits. And I'm excited. You kind of dropped some news on the beginning of the show about Black Friday. I'm going to actually not talk about it at all because I want to be the only one that can win the new Kyle Snyder shoes. So cool. Have a good day. Stay tuned. All right. I will talk to you next week, Matt. See ya.
All right. See you, Ben.